Political analyst Zakhele Ndlovu. Mr. Ndlovu, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Daytime Update. Just on the appointment of Zakhele Ndlovu as a member of this Executive Council, is it consolation for a graceful exit?
Yes, it does come across as some kind of consolation. The question that we need to be asking is his resignation as Premier of the province. Does it have anything to do with the interests of the province as a whole, or does it have anything to do with the change in the provincial leadership? I think that we need to start asking the question, and that is, what criteria is used to deploy people into positions? Is it meant to serve the interests of the ANC or the interest of the province in this case? So you have to wonder if Zakhele was not doing a good job, and that's why he was removed. And now that they are deploying him to being the MEC of Kota, does that have to do with him having expertise in that particular field, or does it have to do with his relationship with traditional leaders in KwaZulu-Natal?
To be fair, a week ago we were told that Zakhele Ndlovu had resigned and not been removed. That was according to his statement and a statement released by the provincial executive in KwaZulu-Natal. But I want to take your own question and put it back to you, that of whether this is a realigning of based on ANC interests or in the interest of serving the people of KwaZulu-Natal. How do you read it?
Well, my reading of it is that this has everything to do with ANC politics. Remember that his resignation came just after the provincial conference, which he lost, his slate lost. So clearly, yes, he did resign, but you can just imagine that he was under pressure. He had completely lost power within the ANC. He was not even elected into the provincial executive committee. So clearly, his resignation was him just falling on his sword.
And Nomusa Dube, then the new chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, is going to be Economic Development MEC from today onwards, right? And he has no experience, I beg your pardon, of government issues at that level. Would 2 years now until 2024, when the general election happens, would that be enough to make sure that by the time that he possibly becomes Premier after the election, he is ready to do that, to lead the province?
That's a good question. I think 2 years is not a very long time for a person to make a difference in the department. I think that we'll be jumping the gun if we assume that come the general election in 2024, he will assume the position of Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. We do know that Nomusa Dube-Ncube is just a caretaker Premier that is, sort of like warming the seat for Mr. Duma. But there's no guarantee that the ANC will get an outright victory in the 2024 election. We have seen in the local government elections coalition governments being formed. So the question is, are we going to see this happening at the provincial level? Yes, you alluded to the fact that Mr. Duma does not have much experience in government. And this takes me back to the question I posed earlier on, and that is, what criteria does the deployment committee, what criteria do they use to deploy people? And we know in this case, even though the Premier is the one who makes the decision as to who becomes the Premier, but we know that his decision is informed by what the deployment committee of the ANC wants.
Do you think Nomusa Dube then, as ANC chairperson, will be, among this team of MECs, the one whose performance is watched most closely?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, look, I think what is important here is that the country is facing a lot of challenges, and of course, KwaZulu-Natal. We saw riots last year, we saw the floods. There are so many challenges, and I think we're watching to see if the premiers who are supposed to deal, for example, with the issue of floods, making sure that the people who are badly affected are assisted. We'll be watching to see if they deliver. So I think it would be a mistake to simply focus on Mr. Duma, but I think we need to look at all the MSCs and make sure that they do their job properly, that they deliver.
But he would also be under pressure, wouldn't he, because economic development would be seized with trying to get KZN back to where it was before the floods this year and the riots of 2021.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the issue of economic development is a very important one in a country that is still developing, where there's a lot of poverty, there's high unemployment, and this big inequality that we have. So his portfolio is very, very important. The province of KwaZulu-Natal remains largely rural, and we'll be looking to see if he's gonna bring any change and move the province in the right direction.
And what you were saying earlier about how there is no certainty, as we've seen in the metros over the past decade and a half, that the ANC will win an outright majority, and you suggested that KZN may in fact not be spared that fate come 2024. This team then now assembled by Premier Dube-Ncube, is it a strong enough team to avoid further electoral losses for the ANC?
Look, I think what we need to keep in mind here is that the changes that we are seeing reflect not so much the ANC's commitment to bring about positive changes in KwaZulu-Natal. I think they have more to do with trying to appease the factions of the state that lost, and that's why Zakhele Ndlovu was brought back now as Kota MEC. So the changes have more to do with ANC politics than what KwaZulu-Natal needs. And the question is, do these changes, are they going to inspire confidence in the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal among the general public? And I think we'll see in 2024 if the people of KwaZulu-Natal have bought into this change that the ANC has introduced in 2022.
Political analyst Zakhele Ndlovu, good to have your time, sir. Thank you.